Do you guys ever just have those days where it seems like everything is going wrong today? Right now, this is one of those days for me. I just recorded like this whole entire video and I didn't plug in my mic. So if you guys are wondering, how my day's going,
it's going good.
Today, guys, we are here. We are going to be recapping, or at least talking about, round 5 of the 2019 AMA Supercross season, which took place in, of course, San Diego. San Diego, guys, it was a mud race. It was absolutely crazy. The East Coast is on for a break right now, and we're heading over to the West Coast, so no more rain. We're heading on into the indoor stadiums, and San Diego was kind of our farewell to the rainy, wet mud riding that we've had so far for 2 rounds of the series. Like, man, 2 rounds so far being mud rounds. Even last weekend it was a little sketchy. The track was a little soft and it rutted up. But yeah, we're on to the West Coast, so no more rain for now. That doesn't mean it's not going to be back when they go back to West Coast, hitting Daytona and all that. Like, rain can happen. Las Vegas, imagine a Las Vegas mudder. That would be absolutely crazy. Now, guys, we're gonna hop in. We're gonna talk about the 250 class and the 450 class. If you guys do enjoy, make sure to smash that thumbs up button for me. And other than that, guys, let's get into the recap. Now, just one thing real quick, guys, before we do jump into the recap. This right here, this is my buddy Twitchy's channel. If you guys can you guys go give him a subscribe? He's sitting at 39 subscribers right now. He uploads a bunch of moto games, a bunch of reviews of different foods and candies, and all sorts of stuff. He uploads a ton of content, guys. Go check out Twitchy's channel. Try and get him to at least 50 subs, guys. Let's see if we can get him to 50 subs. So 11 of you guys, go toss him a subscribe. He does a lot of Supercross, a lot of MX vs ATV all out, so you guys can see a lot of different MX games and the same MX games that I play from a different perspective over on his channel. Go check him out, show your support, guys. Yeah, do it, do it, do it. Now back to the regularly scheduled video. We are here, guys. Let's talk about the 250 class. You guys already know we're talking about San Diego, so let's get right into it. Heat number 1 for the 250 class. The track was an absolute mud fest, although it did look like a little slick with like a hard base. So it looked really slick on top with like a foot of slop, and then it looked like it had a really hard base, but the ruts got deep. Now in 250 Heat 1, the number 34 of Dylan Ferrandis was out front early, and he leads the entire moto start to finish. Getting a good start in mud races, it's huge because you don't have to deal with roost or anything until you get into lapped riders, and Ferrandis took advantage of that, got a good start, and said sayonara. He checked out. The number 194 of Jerry Robin, who has kind of been like on and off the radar. He does good or he does really bad. He never seems to really pull like a solid night together each round. He always does like really good or really bad. He's all over the place. He went down in P2 right off the start in heat number 1. He kind of came into a double a little bit sideways. He lost traction a little bit, and then when he hit the face, it was just so soft. He hit a super soft spot and almost basically like kind of went over the bars. I don't even know how to explain his crash. At this point in the race, it was only 250 Heat 1. A lot of bikes were smoking and carnage was going down. The number 67 of Lopes went over a berm, and it just shows you that these riders have to adapt to the conditions. Like, they can't stop as quick, they can't hit the jumps, they can't turn on a dime like they're used to. Every rider has to adapt to the rainy conditions. Now, in heat number 1, right at the end, the number 92 of Adam Cianciarulo was closing in on Dylan Ferrandis on the very last lap. He was getting super close. He was this close, guys. He was so close to getting him, but he couldn't get it done. Ferrandis went on to win, AC coming in second, and they went on into the main event. Now, 250 heat number 2. Oh man, this is where the carnage really started happening. So there was carnage in the first corner. In the first corner, we saw a pretty big pileup. Marchbanks went down, Harrison went down. There were a lot of bikes laying on the ground, and the thing was, these guys weren't getting up very quick. Like, a lot of people were getting stuck in the mud, causing big like pile-ups in the corner. It was crazy. So the number 31 of RJ Hampshire gets out to the front early, like really early, right off the start, gets that whole shot, heads out, he's hitting triples, he leads start to finish. He got out early, started hitting the fast lines, got a gap, got a lead early, and checked out, he got that win. The number 39 of Colt Nichols came in P2. Now he was your points leader coming into the night, and he was closing in on Hampshire on the last lap, but he could not get it done. Shane McElrath, one of your guys who was in top 5 for points, actually had to head to the LCQ due to a crash in his heat race. In 250 Heat 2, we also saw Dakotas making mistakes, Pettis making mistakes, the Canadian who actually had a killer ride this night, and then that was pretty much it for Heat 2. Just carnage, man. Carnage. Moving on to the 250 LCQ, Garrett Marchbanks got out front early and Shane McElrath came in a solid P2. They kind of just got out to that start and that's how they finished. It didn't look like McElrath really wanted to push it. I almost kind of thought like McElrath was out there, you know, he accepted that he was, you know, in a transfer spot out of the LCQ, and it really looked like he was just taking the time to kind of learn the track, figure out lines, and learn how to ride the track, because he did do alright in the main event. But in the LCQ, in the 250 LCQ, you could tell the track was starting to get deep and thick. It wasn't raining anymore, so rather than it just staying like a soupy slop, the mud starts to thicken up, it really starts to get heavier, it starts to stick to the bike more, and the ruts were getting deep. So riders were going down in these ruts, riders would come in to the same rut as someone else, the person in front of them would go down, and then they would be stuck in a rut, the person in front of them that went down wouldn't even be able to get up. There were rider pileups everywhere, and we were in for an interesting night. Now moving on to the 250 main event, right off the bat, we have Adam Cianciarulo getting out to what he needs, that early lead. AC needs the early lead. He was actually followed by the Canadian, Jess Pettis, man, let's go. Super hyped to see him running up near the front, finally a Canadian that's going over and kind of doing something, right? Like he's getting results, he's making the main events, and he's doing pretty good, so Canadian power, man. Of course, in the main event, there was some early carnage. We saw Shane McElrath go down early. We saw Dakotas and Nichols, who were running top 3. They went down. Hampshire went down. And as you guys can tell, like, people were going down like crazy. It was survival out there. Like, it was literally just a game of survival. Whoever could stay up the longest. It was on like lap 3 or 4. Adam Cianciarulo already had a 9-second lead on Pettis, Ferrandis, Marchbanks, and he was checking out. Nichols, the points leader, was 1 lap down with a minute to go. So with a minute to go, Nichols, who was your points leader, got lapped by Adam Cianciarulo. So not a good night for Nichols. He's gonna lose the points lead, of course, to Adam Cianciarulo, who went on to take that win. Now Dylan Ferrandis, he took a mid-race tumble on the finish line. He went down. He did get back up in P3. He was running in 3rd the whole entire race. Now on like the last lap, Dylan Ferrandis had some bike issues. He was running in 3rd. On the last lap, his bike blows up, and he wasn't able to finish the race, but guys, he was credited with 7th position. So he got docked 5 positions for his bike blowing up. How do they go and determine that? Like, is there a certain rule that if you're on the last lap and your bike blows up, you only get docked 5 positions? Or like, how does that work? How did he get credited with 7th? Did he push his bike across the finish? Or what happened there? I kind of missed it how he ended up getting credited with 7th. Like, I know in years past, if your bike blows up, that's your problem. You DNF, right? Like, there's nothing they do for you. So I don't know what happened there. If they've changed some rules, guys, could you let me know down in the comments? It would be good if you guys could let me know, because I want to know. I want to know how Ferrandis went and blew up his bike in 3rd but still got 7th even though he was stuck in the mud. I don't know, maybe he pushed his bike across the finish line. We had Jess Pettis getting a career best of 5th. That was his first time in the top 5 for the Supercross series, which is absolutely crazy. Like I said, Canadian power, man, Canadian power. But Adam Cianciarulo took his 3rd win of the season and the points lead. Marchbanks came in P2, and then Jimmy D in P3. And the points, the way they sit right now, it's Adam Cianciarulo, Shane McElrath, Colt Nichols, and Dylan Ferrandis in 4th. That's your top 4. But this 250 class now gets a 7-week break as we head on over to the East round. So I might have said earlier that this was the East Coast, but yeah, West Coast is on right now, and we're heading on into the East Coast right now. So I might have messed that up earlier. I'm not sure. Now, guys, moving on to the 450 class, 450 heat number 1. Baggett and Roxon get out. They're battling for the early lead, and there was no carnage in this race. Like, no carnage. After seeing how the 250 heats went, I was really expecting some carnage here in heat number 1 for the 450s, but it was pretty relaxed. We saw Cooper Webb lurking. He came from behind. He had a bad start. He came from behind and finished in P2, but Roczen went on to take that heat win. Was it gonna be his night? Was Roczen gonna get his first win of the series? We'd have to wait and find out. Moving on to 450 heat number 2, the man Justin Hill doesn't start. He hurt his chest, maybe a rib injury is what they were talking about, and he actually had to go to the hospital to get it checked out just to be sure, so he didn't line up for the night. AP Aaron Plessinger got out front early, out to that early lead. You guys all know AP loves the mud. Right off the start, this is something I want to talk about. Marvin Musquin lost complete traction before he even crossed over the starting gate. And this kind of shows that the great start that they've kind of transitioned to, it still takes skill. It still takes skill to be able to get a good start. Even in conditions like this in the mud, you're not getting complete traction. Marvin Musquin dropped the clutch, got on the gas, and he slid. His bike just slid completely sideways, ruining his start, but he did manage to fight back to third and finish up in third, qualify right into the main. It just shows you that, like, the greats, there's a lot of talk about the greats. People saying, you know, that it takes away all the skill because everyone just has 100% traction and you can just go. I think that right there was like the first example, that Marvin Musquin incident. It was kind of like the first example where we've seen that the greats definitely do take skill. They do take skill. If Marv got on the throttle maybe a little smoother, maybe he wouldn't have spun out, but maybe he just hit the gas a little too hard, and it's throttle control, right? It's all throttle control. Now, there was a little bit of a surprise in this heat race. We saw Justin Bogle with it was an insane pass on Aaron Plessinger. He came in onto the inside of the corner, just railed the rut, and he was looking fast after a crash last weekend that sent him to the LCQ. Do you remember Bogle? He went down in the whoops, kind of got sketchy, went down in the whoops. His back fender and his seat were stuck in the ground. It was kind of crazy. So he was looking for redemption. He was coming out swinging here in this heat number 2, and he actually went down. He didn't just go down once. He went down once. He cross-threaded in the whoops, got up, kept the lead, and then he went down again and fell all the way back to 5th place. So it was a bummer. I would have liked to seen Bogle get that win. Now, Tomac and AP were actually battling for the lead. AP led for a bit, and he actually started to pull away from Tomac again, but Tomac came from nowhere. Tomac came swinging on the last lap to take the heat race win. In the LCQ, I mean, it wasn't too crazy. Of course, there was some carnage, but Ben LeMay got out front early and led start to finish. We saw him followed by Paulie, Alex Ray, and Carlin Gardner moving on to the main event. There was no Justin Brayton heading on to the main event due to an earlier crash in the day. I think it was in his heat race or practice or something. Brayton had a crash and he was not partaking in the night show, and this was huge because he was 10th in points. The man was up there in the points, missing a race. That is costly. Now, moving on to the main event, this is what you guys all want to hear about. Man, oh man, Ken Roczen, guys, gets the whole shot. Kenny gets out front early, followed by Tomac, but what happens in the second corner, guys? I told you, man, Kenny can do it. Kenny can get the win, but I don't think it's going to come easy. I don't think it's going to come easy for him. He went down in the second corner, giving the lead to Tomac. So Roczen goes down, Tomac gets the lead, and man, it was just kind of like a heartbreaking moment. At first, it was like, man, Roczen might be able to do it. He's been looking good all night, other than qualifying. But in the night show, Roczen was looking solid. And then he goes down. He went down. So he got up quick. He still finished in P3. He ran P2 like the whole entire moto. But on like the last couple laps, the boy Marvin Musquin came out of nowhere, passing Roczen on the last lap. It was like the last section too. It was a whoop section, 90-degree corner, and a whoop section, and the finish line after that second whoop section. And Marv passed Roczen in the corner, pretty much coming into the corner before that second whoop section. So right there, man, Roczen almost got that P2, but not tonight. Maybe next time he'll actually get that win. Some things to note were that Justin Barcia's bike was donezo. It blew up actually fairly early in the race, and I don't think he was able to go on and finish. As well as Cooper Webb, the points leader coming into this round, struggling. The man was struggling, and he did not get a good result. Lost the points lead. It was just brutal. Tomac, even though he did struggle on the last couple of laps, he struggled his way to victory, and he took that win. So the 450 points are actually staying pretty close, I would say. Tomac is starting to get a little bit of a lead with 106 points. He is now the points leader, and he will have the red plate at the next round. Muskin and Roxon are tied for technically second. They're second and third with 102 points. And then Webb. Cooper Webb is chilling in fourth with about 98 points. Now, there's a little bit of a gap from 4th to 5th in the points. Dean Wilson only has 80, so 18 points between Webb and Wilson. So I would say right now, Tomac, Muskin, Roxon, and Webb are kind of your title contenders for this year. Now, anything can happen. 18 points from Wilson to Webb, that's not even a full round, right? Like, if Wilson wins, he'll be ahead of Webb if Webb doesn't even finish. So crazy things can happen, right? Like, say the top 4 guys don't even finish next race, Wilson could be your points leader, right? Crazy things could happen. You never know. You never know what could go down. But the points are staying tight. We had a new winner once again. Roxon is still going for that win. He faced an early race crash, which kind of sucks. It could have been it, man. It could have been it. And then he goes and he loses second to Marvin Muskin as he was struggling in the whoops on the last lap. Man, oh man. I have a question, guys. Do you think both classes are going to stay close in points all year? I think we're just starting to see a spread in the points with, you know, Tomac starting to pull away, and even the top 5 in the 450 class, you know, like the top 4 are pretty close, and then it seems like everyone else is kind of fallen back, fallen behind, and it's almost like the same thing in the 250 class. We have our couple top dogs, and then everyone else is kind of falling back, falling off the pace, falling out of the points chase. But that's it for the West Coast for now, guys. We're on to the closed stadiums of the East Coast next weekend, so hopefully it should be good. I hope you guys did enjoy this little bit of a recap. If you did, make sure to smash that thumbs up button for me, guys. Throw any comments down below. A subscribe would be much appreciated. Peace out.